Hey guys, what's happening? So today I want to do something a little different than I normally do. I normally rush through a review and give you the specs on it, in my opinion, in a few minutes and I'm out. I wanted to spend a little time today and kind of go over my collection and answer one of the big questions I've always been asked, and I hear a lot of people ask other people, and it's, what's your favorite knife? What knife would you keep if you could only keep one? And those are two completely different questions for me, at least. Because the knife that I would keep if I could only keep one, I'd probably sacrifice a little bit in style to get something that's going to last forever. If you ask me what my favorite knife overall, it's kind of an easy one for me. And I think everyone knows who watches this channel that it's the Sleece Bowie. Hands down, there's nothing even close. But if you told me I had to sell all my knives and I could only keep one, that wouldn't be it. It would be the Strider .75 AR. The reason is, this is about as hard use as it gets. And to me, you can have a light carry EDC and it's good for that, but you couldn't really use it hard use because you'd probably destroy it after a while. This I could use for hard use, light use, EDC, self-defense. It's just a great knife. I've taken this knife apart several times and put it back together. It's built like a brick shithouse. It's one of my favorite knives. It definitely doesn't top the Sleece Bowie, but that's kind of more in my collector category because it's too valuable at this point, unfortunately. I wish it wasn't. I wish it would drop down to $200 and they would start selling them again, but I don't think it's going to happen. So this would be the knife if I could only keep one. If we were talking in a budget category, a knife, say under $100, I think this is about as good as knife as I can find under $100. Spyderco Chaparral Lightweight. You get CTX XXP, super slicey blade, great action after I loosen the spring up a little bit. I really like the FRN scales. I hear a lot of people say bad things about the not bad things, but they say they don't care for them. I really like them. I think they feel cool. They give lots of grip, and I kind of prefer them over G10. So that kind of answers that question. If you ask which knife I carry the most, it would be a different answer. And I couldn't tell you exactly why, but this knife ends up in my pocket more than any other knife I have, almost by default. Spyderco K2. A big part of it is I'm a big guy and I like big knives. I've collected a lot of Medfords and big knives like that, and I work in construction. I'm not a construction worker, I'm a construction manager, but I still like big knives. I mean, I like it when I pull it out and people notice and say, hey, what's that? And it strikes up a conversation about knives. And sometimes you find out you're standing right next to a knife guy and didn't even know it. So that one has really, really, really grown on me. All of that kind of brings me down to a knife that I've experienced today for the first time, believe it or not, in my collection. This is my first Opinel. I stopped at a place here in Houston today and I bought this knife. This is the first one I've ever put my hands on, believe it or not. And I'm super impressed. For $10, this is an unbelievable knife. See, I rubbed it up against my ceramic rod a little bit, but this knife is for whittling, working. This knife is to be used and used alone. It's definitely not a collector. I guess some people probably do collect them or could collect them. This thing is stupid sharp. I can promise you right now it's the sharpest knife I got. This is the carbon blade. They have a carbon blade and a stainless. And the guy at the shop told me that the carbon's much better. Super, super thin knife. I mean, it's like thin as a razor. But one thing, I watched a few videos on it, and I of course knew about these knives. I knew they were great knives for the price, and people use them for carving and all kinds of things. Well, one thing I didn't know is this company started, this knife has been around since 1890. And the only thing that has changed on this knife is this collar, the lock collar. And some of you may not be familiar with Opinel. See if I can figure it out here. There it goes. Yeah, it's super sharp because it just nicked me there. That collar locks the blade. And also, when you spin it back, close the blade, you can lock it shut. Pretty cool. For a $10 knife, that's pretty awesome. And I just wanted to have one in my collection, just to say I own one. And then my token broski knife, can't help but love that. Anyway, those are my favorites, and the one I'd keep the most and the one I carry the most. Hope that helps, you know, somebody that's collecting along and looking for some knife to chase. And I can absolutely recommend the Slice Bowie if you can find one. I think the price right now is averaging about $800 if you can find one. The K2 is pretty tough to find too. I think more because they just didn't sell that many of them. It has before you go to the K2, make sure you're well versed in sharpening or have someone who is. It was a beast to sharpen. I mean, just a pain in the butt. But once you get it sharp, it stays there forever. It'll last a long, long time. The Strider .75 AR is manufactured by Medford. It's solid, good to go, badass knife. Designed by Strider, I believe it was built by Medford. My favorite little knife, one more thing, my favorite little knife would absolutely be the Techno 2, Spyderco Techno 2. The fit and finish on this knife is insane. It is just a beautiful little knife. From the blade to the big, fat, thick scales, zero lock stick. Another great budget knife is the Damn Designs knives. I mean, with the coupon code, these things are like 180 bucks. You're talking about titanium scales, marble carbon fiber inlay, 390 running on bearings, and quality off the charts. Ergonomics are ridiculous. I mean, this knife feels great in your hand. They have this one, they have one in a drop point blade, they have three different frame locks. So if you're looking for a deal on a great knife with badass materials, that's where to go. So anyway, this is kind of an overview of my collection and what I think about. I have a Spyderco Rubicon and the other Spyderco that looks just like it. I can't remember the name right offhand. Both of them coming in tomorrow, and I'm super stoked about that. So anyway, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Hope you're all doing well. Hope you're getting back to normal after the Rona. Hope we all get back to normal pretty quick after that. But anyway, God bless you all. Good night.